Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing the post-draft coverage following Wednesday's draft. And in this video, we're talking about the Utah Jazz. They made a couple different selections. With the first one, they had the 27th pick, and they used it to select a big man, Udoka Azubuike from Kansas. And with their other first-round pick, they took a wing from Syracuse, Elijah Hughes. But before we talk too much about the Jazz and the situation that they are in, I want to remind you to leave a like and subscribe. I've been appreciating all the support I've gotten recently, and I hope to see that continue. Helps me out because I get the support, and helps you out because who doesn't love basketball? We got plenty of basketball content here. So, without further ado, let's talk about the Utah Jazz. The Azubuike pick is really interesting to me. Last year, he was probably the most impactful defensive player in all of college basketball. He's a good lob finisher on offense and a good screen setter because of how huge his body is. On defense, he's a really good shot blocker. He's super impactful on the defensive end, and he's all over the place. But he can't shoot free throws, so that's a problem there. He's not real mobile, and he probably can't switch out on the perimeter, which is another problem. And he also doesn't bring much offensive value aside from dunking. He dunks a lot, but he doesn't do a whole lot much else. I kind of like this pick for the Jazz because it's actually a really nice fit with their scheme. Obviously, on the first team, you've got Rudy Gobert, one of the best rim protectors, probably the best rim protector in the entire NBA. He's got a similar frame to Azubuike. On offense, he plays similar as a screen setter and rim runner. So I think that Azubuike can come in and learn a lot of valuable lessons from Rudy. I also think that overall, once Azubuike can come into the game, the Jazz will get to keep playing the same style of ball screen heavy, guys running around off ball screens, getting open looks on the perimeter. And then on defense, they can continue to run the same drop coverage scheme where they try to get people into Rudy's territory where he is a great rim protector. They can now do the same thing with the second team with Udoka Azubuike that they really weren't able to do with Tony Bradley. We saw them also select Elijah Hughes with the 39th pick, I believe. I think this is one of the better value picks of the entire draft. I think Elijah Hughes is going to be a pretty solid wing. I had him ranked very highly among the wings in this draft. I had him above guys like Robert Woodard, Josh Green, and those guys. Well, actually, Woodard went 40, one pick behind Hughes, but Josh Green went 18th, and I actually believe that Hughes was a better player than him. So I think that this is a really nice value pick for the Jazz. They got one of the better wings in the draft. That's a position that they needed to target, and they did. And I think that there's a chance that Elijah could grow into a player that can be a secondary playmaker. I think he's going to shoot it really well from the perimeter. Only shot 34% in his last year at Syracuse, but that's mostly because he was really the only player that could create shots in the flow of the offense, and sometimes he stepped a little outside of the flow of the offense and forced up difficult shots a little more than he should have. But I think that was largely because of the offensive load he had to carry, and once he's got the ability to take easier shots that are more high quality and have a better chance at going in, I think we'll see those efficiency marks rise. I also think that he's going to defend the ball pretty well because he's a good athlete. He played well in the 2-3 zone at Syracuse, but that doesn't always translate, as we've seen with Syracuse players in the past. They have not been great on defense at the NBA level, but who knows? Maybe that's not as important anymore due to the increasing amount of zone defense. I would have been really intrigued to see Elijah Hughes go to a team like Miami or Toronto that plays a lot of zone, but it didn't happen, and I think Utah is probably one of the least likely teams to get into the zone stuff because of the excellent rim protector they have in Rudy Gobert. Although, actually, maybe going zone would be good with Rudy because then he doesn't have to play away from the basket. Anyways, I do like that pick quite a bit, and I think that Elijah has a chance to develop into an interesting player for them on the wing who maybe is a long-term fit between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. In case you didn't know, I'm also a huge Donovan Mitchell fan, so I'll just put that out there. He's probably one of my. He might be. I'd say he's probably my favorite player in the entire NBA. So, yeah, I'm a little biased. But back to the Jazz as a whole. They did add a need by getting the backup center because obviously they needed a center after trading away Ed Davis and Tony Bradley. And Udoka Azubuike is on a cheaper deal than either of those two, so I don't disagree with that. And it allowed them to clear up some cap space, which I think is very valuable to this team. Obviously, their priority is bringing back Jordan Clarkson. He played a key role for them this past season as a shot maker off the bench. His plus minus on the court impact versus how they played off the court with him was pretty immense. They were much better with Clarkson on the court than they were with him off of it. There's some statistic out there like when he scored 15 points or more, they were undefeated or something like that. It might be like they won 4/5 of the. I don't know. There's some stat. I can't remember the exact details, but he's clearly important to them as a guy who can come off the bench and get buckets for them. As of right now, they have a starting lineup of Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles / Royce O'Neal. I'm not sure which one they're going to want to start going into next year. And then obviously Bojan Bogdanovic and Rudy Gobert are the front court. So after that, it kind of falls off a little bit. They have the other guy of Ingles and O'Neal, along with George Niang and Udoka Azubuike off the bench right now. They don't have a whole lot of depth because aside from those three guys, they have a ton of players that are on rookie minimums. Even if they are intriguing guys that I could see being in a rotation next year, such as Mie Oni and Juwan Morgan, I'm just not sure that those guys are going to be able to step up and be true rotation type guys. So it's important for them to bring Clarkson back, obviously, because he's going to give them that bench scoring that they so badly need. But they also are going to have room to use their entire mid-level exception. And I think that this is a key asset that they really need to hit on. They got to use the mid-level on the right guy because they need some more help off the bench. Your first thought would be to bring in someone who can score, right? Since, like I said, the bench guys they have are O'Neal, Niang, and Azubuike. And none of those guys are really talented scorers. But assuming they bring back Clarkson, they will then have Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Jordan Clarkson as guys who can just go out there and get you buckets. And Joe Ingles is a really good shooter, too. So he's not as good of a scorer, but he is a good shooter. So that's plenty of offense there. I think what they need to focus is another defensive wing / guard who can take on some challenging matchups in the playoffs. The first name that comes to me here would be Justin Holiday. I would really like it if they could pick up Holiday because he could slot in as a starter on the wing for them and they could move both Ingles and O'Neal to the bench. Ingles could kind of take on a backup point guard type role for them in relief of Mike Conley. And then obviously you have O'Neal off the bench as another 3-and-D wing. Holiday would be a nice fit alongside Donovan Mitchell and Bojan Bogdanovic, since neither of those two guys are great shooters, what am I saying? Neither of them are great defenders, so Holiday could help cover up for that. He could be the guy to take on those challenging matchups on big wings during the playoffs, and he could also help to space the floor on the offensive end. I think that he would be a really nice add, and I would not be shy about offering him the full mid-level exception for a 2-year deal. If that's not the direction they want to go in, I also like Chris Dunn here. He's not quite the shooter that Holiday is, but he's a better defensive player. He's one of the better guards in the entire NBA, in my opinion. I put him up there with guys like Kyle Lowry and Eric Bledsoe in that department, and I think that they really need a stopper due to the sheer amount of super talented guards that are in the Western Conference. James Harden, Steph Curry, Jamal Murray, the list goes on. Luka Doncic. And if you have a guy who can really, really give you a chance fighting against those guys every defensive possession, that's really, really valuable. And especially seeing that Chris Dunn didn't receive the qualifying offer from the Bulls, I think that he could be a really good option for the Jazz to bring in to be a backup point guard for them who can really, really put the clamps on the defensive end. After those two, it falls off a little bit. I think Jay Crowder would be a nice fit, but that ship might have already sailed, as we saw him play with the Jazz. Was that last year or 2 years ago? I can't even remember. And he wasn't very good. So I don't know that that's something that they want to try again. I think they will probably look to go in a different direction. Not really sure what that would be. Like I said, Holiday would be my favorite name for this team. I think they could also be a really sneaky Derrick Jones Jr. team if they offer him the mid-level for 4 full seasons. I think that that's probably a deal he can't turn down. He'll be in his prime for the entirety of those seasons, and we've seen them bring jump shots right along with guys like Joe Ingles and Royce O'Neal, help them to improve their shooting, George Niang as well. So I think that he could be a really nice signing for them, and he probably would end up being a valuable contract by the end of that deal, as if he's only getting the mid-level exception and he's already a spectacular defender and athlete. If you add a jump shot to that, he's going to be a valuable player and probably a starter level guy. So those would be my names for them to target. Justin Holiday, Chris Dunn, Derrick Jones Jr., and make sure you keep Jordan Clarkson on deck because his scoring off the bench is super important. If you don't keep him around, you probably can't go for one of those other 3 guys. I'm not really sure how much cap space they freed up, but they might have room to go after like a Fred VanVleet type. I'm not really sure. I think it's about $8 million they freed up after trading away Tony Bradley and Ed Davis. So if they can't keep Clarkson, then I think I might go after a bigger name like Fred VanVleet. Like, I don't know. Who are the other big names? Gordon Hayward, of course, but I don't know if they're going to want to do that. He's a wing, and they are pretty set on the wings, and also Gordon Hayward kind of left them a couple years ago. So, that's like I said, I'm a big fan of the Elijah Hughes pick at 39. The Udoka Azubuike pick, I like it better than a lot of people do, so for that reason, I'm willing to give the Jazz a solid B on their draft. In free agency, make sure you keep Jordan Clarkson and use your mid-level on a defensive-minded player that either has a jump shot or could develop a jump shot. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments section both what you think of this draft pick and who you think the Jazz should target in free agency. I think that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.